Good day, students, it's class time. Your daily session for CSEC and CAPE students. Watch lessons in real time on Television Jamaica YouTube channel on One Spot Media. We also are live on gojamaica.com. If you have any questions on today's subject, you can send them to the Television Jamaica's Facebook page or Instagram at television_Jamaica or use the hashtag TVJClassTime. I am Gail Winter Farquharson, and today I will be introducing to you CSEC Agricultural Science. Today, we'll be looking on Section A of our syllabus, which is an introduction to agriculture and agricultural science. Tidbit. Question. Why does a milking parlor stool has 3 legs? 2 seconds. 1. Because the cow has the udder. Get it? So let's go dive into today's lesson. The objectives today are 1. We will define the key terms agricultural science and agriculture. 2. Compare the difference between the farming practice from the pre-colonial time to present. 3. Explore the challenges affecting local and regional agriculture. 4. Identify the solutions for challenges affecting local and regional agriculture. So let's go into our definitions for today. 1. Agriculture. This is the art or practice of cultivating the soil, producing crops, rearing livestock in varying ways of preparation and marketing for a resulting factor. Agricultural science. This is the science that is very broad. So it's a multidisciplinary field that deals with the natural, economic, and social sciences that are used in the practice and understanding of agriculture. So agricultural science lends to developing agriculture. It looks at the practical aspects, how they interrelate with the physical environment and nature, and how best we look at observing and looking at experiments. So agricultural science lends to improving the quality and the quantity of farming. Agricultural science has different processes. These process works well to create the drive for agriculture, which is a system. So agricultural science has 6 different branches, which we consider different processes that makes agriculture work. These are 1. Agronomy, 2. Horticulture, 3. Agricultural engineer, 4. Agricultural economics, 5. Animal science, and 6. Fisheries. So let's look deeper. Now, for every story you have time. Now, time goes by very fast. Let's look at how they interrelate. Now, agriculture looks on the doing, the actual process or act of agriculture, while agricultural science looks on the intellectual and the practical activities. So they both sail hand in hand for an ultimate goal. Now, for everything we look at, we know that we have something called a history. Back then, everything has a start. Nothing different from agriculture. No, for agriculture, we look on time. Now, back then, listen to this definition. Colonial times occurred in the era when the practice by which a powerful country directly controlled less powerful countries and used their resources to increase their own power and wealth. What comes to mind? Slavery. So colonial times, we would associate the word slavery. Pre-colonial times, the word pre means before, right? So the era that happened before slavery would have been called the pre-colonial time. And thereafter, which is the post, would have been the post-colonial time. So let's dive into it. First, pre-colonial. Pre-colonial time, that sounds before Christopher Columbus came, right? So we had the Taínos in Jamaica. We're looking at Jamaica, right? Now, back then, the Taínos maybe used simple tools. So, for example, they're going to go fishing. They have us a spear, right? Crops that they would grow is just for their personal needs. So they practice subsistence farming. 3, they grew a wide variety of crops to include beans, cassava, and corn. And they practiced simple agriculture. slash and burn practice. So they were very, very simple as it pertains to agriculture. Then Columbus came. So we move into our colonial time, where at this time the labor force grew. Because remember, we said before, they wanted to generate wealth for themselves. So they create a large labor force, but however, they use simple tools. 2, in the colonial time, they practice commercial farming, which is growing crops on a large scale. And they practice growing just one crop, one major crop at a time. And I don't know if you can see the picture very well, but this looks like sugarcane. So sugarcane back then was used as a sweetener and very important in trading back in the time. And they practice what you call conventional farming. Conventional farming lending itself into using a wide variety of practices to control issues that may arise during the agricultural practice, to include increasing pests and diseases. So therefore, they had to have a lot of chemicals, right, to control all these pests as it pertains to conventional farming back then. Then Columbus left. So now we are after slavery. So now we're moving into the post-colonial time. Post-colonial times lends to farming on both the commercial and subsistence basis. Because back then, farming and plantation work ended, so therefore persons went home, created their own farming system in their backyard. So they still had both carrying back then up to now. Then we look on the introduction to technology. Remember I said earlier that agricultural science lends to experimenting, observing, and creating a better quality and quantity for farming. This time is where agricultural science actually boomed, right? So the introduction of technology. So simple tools were like in the past. They had more developed tools now. So now they would have like bulldozers, which makes life easier. We look at growing crops using techniques. Techniques such as crop rotation, composting, green manuring, that all sounds so safe, right? So remember, in the conventional era, they use a lot of chemicals. Now, in the post-colonial times to present, we're trying to practice the non-conventional farming systems. These systems are more environmentally friendly and lends to supporting biodiversity. Now, from all I've said, I'm hoping you are listing some key terms. Let's see how much you are listening. Okay, Ruth Ann, let's look at this one. Under the appropriate time, group the following words below. These words are conventional farming, monoculture, subsistence farming, non-conventional farming, slavery, simple tools, and advanced technology. Let's see if Tanisha Montgomery was listening. Let's go. First time, pre-colonial time, right? Which word here would fall under pre-colonial? Let's see if you're listening. Good, subsistence farming. Another one? Simple tools, great. So I see Tanisha was listening. Let's try another one. Colonial time. Let's go. Which word? Good. Conventional farming. Great. Another one. Very good. Let's see if Nick Kirk Farquharson knows what's happening now. Which word goes well with colonial time? Slavery. Great. Next. Post-colonial. Right. So that's very good. We're listening to the program coming next. So next we're looking on the importance of agriculture. Now, for every field you have its importance. How important is agriculture to humans? First one, it lends to foreign exchange, where goods are sold to other countries and to the local market. So we export goods and we harvest their currency. So we engage in trade where we actually get foreign exchange currencies. 2, we look at it contributes to the gross national product of the country. And there are various sectors in Jamaica to include tourism. Agriculture is very vital as well, as it provides monetary value of the goods and services. 3, we looked at food security. Food security is food preservation, having food for a long time. Huh? So we're going to do it, you know about canning, right? Where we have canned bean and corned beef, where we preserve the food in tins to have for a long time. So the level of food security lends or depends on agriculture. 4, we look on employment. Employment stems to job opportunities. And if you don't know, let me tell you, there's a wide variety of jobs offered through agricultural science. Believe you me, not just farmer. Next, we look on the recreational aspect of agriculture. Leisure, snorkeling. Sounds familiar? Hiking. Remember now, back then when tourists came to Jamaica, they just came and they looked at what? Just the hotels. Now, everybody wants to go out. Ecotourism. And that is where agriculture comes in, right? So it goes hand in hand how important agriculture is to humans. And again, foreign exchange contributes to the gross national product of the country, food security, employment, and recreation. Now, everything has its challenge. Agriculture is no different, right? Now, agriculture faces challenges on a broad spectrum because the system has to work and you have trial and error every day. Before I go, let me ask you one question. The question is, how can farmers conserve water during the dry season? Let me ask you again. How can farmers conserve water during dry season? Hold that thought for me. Let's look on a few challenges. In the Caribbean, we look on the two different terms, to be exact. We have two terms. We have local and we have regional. Local implies within our country. Regional speaks to the Caribbean. So these challenges are confronted in Jamaica and in the wider Caribbean. Let's look at the first one. First one is climate. Now, climate is broken down in two categories. We're looking at seasons. Seasons, wet season, dry season. Seasons influence the rate of production. Wet season lends to heavy rainfall, strong winds, cool temperature, hurricane. Where in the hurricane season, it also promotes pests and disease. And this is spread in animals and it aids to damage livestock as well. Also, the dry season. In the dry season, long periods of sunshine and drought affects the rate at which production in crops and animals occur. Now, these are very important in regards to how we lend to supporting agriculture. We have to factor the challenges. So, here I'm going to show you an image, right? So the image here will speak to this. We are looking at strong winds. So let's look on the following. Okay, so we're going to pause right now and we'll be back, take a quick break. So stay with us. Soon forward.
It's here. Interactive classes for all ages on the School Time channel on onespotmedia.com. With a combination of live Zoom classes and recorded class time, Schools Not Out lessons, and numerous educational content, we've created a comprehensive 24-hour channel dedicated exclusively to educating our nation's youth. Early childhood through to primary, secondary and tertiary, it's one stop on one spot for education 24 hours. Brought to you by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information in association with Television Jamaica Limited.
COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste.
It's here. Interactive classes for all ages on the School Time channel on onespotmedia.com. With a combination of live Zoom classes and recorded class time, Schools Not Out lessons, and numerous educational content, we've created a comprehensive 24-hour channel dedicated exclusively to educating our nation's youth. Early childhood through to primary, secondary, and tertiary, it's one stop on one spot for education 24 hours. Brought to you by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information in association with Television Jamaica Limited.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much.
It's here. Interactive classes for all ages on the School Time channel on onespotmedia.com. With a combination of live Zoom classes and recorded class time, Schools Not Out lessons, and numerous educational content, we've created a comprehensive 24-hour channel dedicated exclusively to educating our nation's youth.
Welcome back. Before we went to the break, we were looking on the challenges that agriculture faces. But Stephen and Shalane were not listening. Let's do a recap. Now, climate. Climate, we factor the two things, wet season and dry season. Seasons influence the rate of production. During the wet season, we'll have heavy rainfalls, strong winds, cool temperature, and hurricane. And as you know, we're in the hurricane season. Now, these factors influence the increased production in pests and in disease. And these are spread throughout crops. And also, wet season can damage our livestock. Dry season. During the dry season, elements are sunshine and increased long periods of sunshine. We have high temperature and drought. And these do affect the rate of production in crops and in animals. Now, the picture here showing you evidence, the results of strong winds, how they can destroy crops. Now, you see here where the crops have been blown to an angle. Now, can you think of one thing that could actually alleviate this problem? Anybody? Anybody? Okay. Nikirk? Great. Good. Wind breaks. Now, windbreaks would have been a solution to the problem of heavy winds. So they could have created barriers along or around the bananas to reduce or buffer the impact of the winds on the crop itself. Another solution could be drip irrigation system during the dry season, where we look on conserving and controlling the amount of water. And dry season, we look on cover crops. Cover crops during dry season, actually the roots themselves open up spaces in the soil to allow free flow of water. Wet season. A solution to the wet season could have been drainage system, creating proper drains so you can channel the water. And pruning. Pruning, removing lateral branches from tree to, again, free flow of wind, so it doesn't actually, destroy the crop itself. Next, we look on topography. Topography is the slope of the land. And we're in the Caribbean, and the majority of the structures found in the land found in the Caribbean is actually mountainous, meaning that a lot of hills are found along the island. Now, the slope of the land can be difficult to cultivate. The topography can be either steep or gentle. And we have many steep slopes in the Caribbean. Now, we look on transportation with steep slopes. It would be very hard to transport goods on a steep slope, use machinery, and to even rear livestock. So imagine rearing cattle on a hillside, and the cattle would actually maybe fall and break a leg. Then we look on increased soil erosion with steep slopes, where we have heavy rainfall and the water would actually run on both sides, removing particles as the water travels down the hillside. A solution to this is actually terracing. Terracing is actually creating ridges or steps around hillsides to reduce the speed of the water, ease in planting as well. Next, we look on rural infrastructure. Rural means outside of the corporate area or the urban area, and you guys call it the country, right? Now, rural infrastructure is very important to encourage farmers. These infrastructure leads to roads, building modern structures in the community, looking on developing smooth, easy access to areas of farming. So infrastructure is the basic service and installation that persons need to encourage them. Now, rural-urban drift is very common, where persons will leave the country to come to town because of the lack of infrastructure in the community. Also, we look at lack of incentives, where farmers aren't encouraged to practice farming because of the difficulty in maybe accessing a loan or maybe getting chemicals or the cost for goods. A solution, creating access to easy roads. The image here lends to an example where before to harvest, the person here, they're harvesting banana, the farm is way past yonder. To access the actual farm, they have to traverse using a boat because of the waterway. By creating infrastructure, better infrastructure, we would pave a proper road so farmers could travel and it's easy to transport their goods. Now, let's look at another. Let's look at Praedial larceny. Praedial larceny. Old English word, huh? Praedial larceny. Anybody wants to tell me? Darian? Praedial means animal. Larceny means theft. So it's the theft of agricultural produce. Praedial larceny. Now, praedial larceny is hard to prove in court. Hard to prove because what are you going to say? Judge, listen, he stole my tomatoes. It's mine. Where's the proof that this tomato belongs to you? Very hard to convince, right? So it becomes very tedious when you're going to bring these cases to court. Also, we look on the poor response from police. When you make a phone call, say, listen, John Brown stole my entire crop of Irish potato. What's the proof that you have that this potato belongs to you? It's not marked. So these are some things that farmers face daily in regard to praedial larceny. And also, if you are convicted The fines are so light, slap on the wrist, they're going to come again. So these things kind of derail, and it's very bothering to many farmers. Some simple solutions we can look at regular policing, where police can come and monitor the areas very often, or maybe 2 or 3 times per week, don't it? You think so, right? 2, we look at imposing heavier fines. Heavy, the value of the good that you stole, times 2, right? That sounds fair. And another one is public awareness. Educate the public in regards to Praedial larceny and the action and the fines that can actually be imposed on you if you're caught. This picture here, question, 2 seconds. Can you tell me how many goats is in the back of this vehicle? 1, 2, 8. That's how clever and cunning many thieves are. So they actually compress all these goats in one vehicle to move, right? Next, we are going to look at land tenure. Land tenure, access to land. In any business, land is the first and the most important factor to attain. Now, access to land is very hard in the Caribbean because 1, fragmentation of land. Back then, you know, my grandfather had a large area of land, right? He died, so then he subdivided this land amongst his children. So the large land is now divided into about 10 pieces. So my mother got a small portion. My mother, Gwendolyn, had 10 kids, right? And those 10 children, that land have to be divided, if she dies, maybe in 10 different parcels. So the land is getting smaller and smaller, and that actually derails a farmer into going into production on a small scale to see return. We look at no interest in agriculture production. Some persons have large areas of land, you know, and they are not interested in agriculture. Hence, some land are left unattended. Then we look at real estate development. Felicia, real estate development rings a bell, right? Now, real estate development looks on competition with housing and housing schemes. So if a piece of land is being sold and the value is $8 million, who would get the preference to buy? A farmer or somebody who's going to build a housing scheme? Who has that money to do it? Right, the housing scheme. So agriculture faces a problem in attaining land. Some solution, and one of the main solutions, is belting, green belt and area, which setting the land aside just for agricultural process. So if you're going to erect a building on the land, it should be a temporary structure. And also reform the policies in regards to 1, idle land, right? Right. So look at this picture here is showing you an example of urban sprawl, where because of the increase in population, you're going to have an increase in demand for housing, right? So the area here wasn't this populated, but over time, the land that was left to your right was left for farming is now taken over by houses. And you can hardly see any green area there, which means there's not much space left for planting either. So population also influences the amount, the access, how farmers access land because of the need for housing. Now, we are going to look further into a few tidbits, which we will expound on other lessons, where we're looking on environmental issues. Environmental issues, 1, destruction of biodiversity. Now, very regularly, before I go into that, biodiversity. This is the wide amount of species that we have that works together in a community. So, biodiversity. So before they erected the highway going to Ochi, there was such a scene there, breathtaking, with the mountainscape and all of that. Now, when you travel along the mountainside, you will not see the evidence of such. Because when you're building roads, what happens is that you have to remove portion of the land to actually create the road surface. So when you remove a portion of the land, you're actually taking away maybe a bird's habitat, right? Maybe another animal's source of food. So when they leave and they return, there's no tree there. There's no nest there. That actually influences the rate of population for many animals. So we look on the destruction of biodiversity, water source for animals, how animals actually get to their water source. So for example, the aquaculture, which stems to maybe fish, right? Now, we're looking at the pollution of many rivers and the disposal of human waste in water that actually can kill many of our aquatic life. We look on pollution on two levels. We are going to look on the air pollution one, and we spoke on it already, which is water pollution. In air pollution, we look on the disposal of gas in the atmosphere that actually has an effect on the production rate of many crops. Then we look on the pesticide resistance. Now, the other day I went to the shop because of the increase in mosquitoes to buy a bottle or container that has spray to, eliminate the mosquitoes. When I went home and I began to spray the area, what happened was that the mosquitoes were still there. The mosquitoes didn't go anywhere because these animals, or the animal mosquito, they developed a resistance to these chemicals. Now, this issue is a problem because it looks to what other option do I have? Some person may target a biological solution, while others just lean to pesticides. But because animals are building a resistance to some of these chemicals, it's harder to control the spread of some of these pesticides in the environment. Then we look on a few solutions. A few solutions. Solution one is to replace the disposal items with reusable items. And I see now we're having some paper containers sometimes when we go out, and some containers are plastic that you can reuse. Next, we look on conservation. How do we conserve on what we have? Conserving on water, conserving on soil. Now, creating a proper drainage system. Before we spoke about terracing, those are avenues we can venture to look on how we can control the movement of soil on land to reduce the risk of erosion. And as you see, when we have heavy rainfalls, we have sedimentation along the roadways where we have soil being settled in the roadway. Then we look on water conservation, where we derive methods how to store water for longer periods. And I know that word comes up too, which would have been the drip irrigation, right? And also crop cover. Now, let's extend the solution to support environmental friendly practices. These practices survive under more than one elements. Now, this one we look at would have been environmentally good practices, which would have been non-conventional methods of farming. Now, by doing this, we stem into supporting organic farming. We look to support, we support organic farming. We look on hydroponics, aquaculture. We look on nutrient film techniques, peri-urban farming. These are all solutions to some of our environmental issues that plague agriculture. Question. Before I ask your question, and I said to you, hey, what? Wait, hold up. So I'm going to ask you the question again. The question is, state 2 ways a farmer can conserve water during the dry season. And that question I'm going to pose to Damara and Kizarana. State 2 ways in which a farmer can conserve water during the dry season. Let's see. Janessa, what did you say? Okay, good. Drip irrigation system, what we spoke about earlier. Anybody else? Darian? Right. Crop cover. So 2 ways how we can control conserve water, during dry season is drip irrigation systems and crop cover. So let's throw back to look at what we covered today. First, we looked on agriculture, where it came from, how it has evolved over time. So agriculture has evolved over the different eras, making agriculture more efficient and adaptive to change. Again, agriculture has evolved over the eras, making agriculture more efficient and adaptive to change. And that sounds like it's going into technology, right? Good, because some persons assume that agriculture is only for farming and doing tedious work. Remember, there's a wide variety of career paths that you can channel through agriculture. 2, we looked at the advancement of agriculture through technology. So for decades, agriculture has been associated with just the production of essential food crops. At present, agriculture is above and beyond just farming. It looks an advancement in technology. And I can't stress that enough, how agriculture is moving with time. This advancement looks to make life easier and has become agricultural driving force. So the science behind agriculture is pushing its foot forward. So look out for any new ideas here coming up along the way, and say to yourself, you know what? This is agricultural science, because we rely heavily on agriculture. Next, we looked on the different importances of agriculture, and we look on some of the important ones, I should say. So agriculture is vital as humans rely on agriculture for employment, recreational activities, medicine, food. Did you know that in your home, almost every furniture in your house is made from wood? So if tomorrow morning a fire came, what would happen? Clean cut. We rely on agriculture for a wide variety of things. And last, we looked on the different challenges that agriculture faces. So we looked at climate, Praedial larceny, topography. These were just a few leading factors that are impacting agriculture in the Caribbean and locally. So agriculture, hand in hand, has a wide stem. We're coming from far, right? We're coming from the pre-colonial, colonial to the current time. Now, this question I'm going to pose for your assignment to just review on your own time. The question says, what basic facilities does a rural community need to provide a satisfactory lifestyle for farmer and their family? Again, what basic facilities does a rural community need to provide a satisfactory lifestyle for farmers and their family? So please write that question down, and you can research. Not more than a paragraph you can write. Now, before I go, I want to leave you with this. It says, I believe in the future of agriculture with a faith born not of words, but of deeds. Again, I believe in the future of agriculture with the faith that is not, with a faith born, not of words, but of deeds. So agriculture has a far way to go. So in the true spirit of me, let me tell you this much, labor omnia vincit. Hard work overcomes all difficulties. My alma mater. But my bread and butter, purple and gold, says excellence always. Students, you have to strive to be the best that you can as you stem towards getting where you want to. So let's push your foot forward and keep going. So let's do a close today. So for today's lesson, let's do a wrap. So the wrap. So that's it for today for CSEC Agricultural Science. Up next, we have CSEC EDPM. Stay with us. Soon come back.